the Democratic Party writ large are defenders of institutions that make the country run, the rule of law. This is part of the problem, right?
You notice what she said. The Democrat Party is loyal to institutions that make the country run. USAID, places like that. You notice she did not say the people. Now, in this video, Jen Psaki decided to jump on with Jon Stewart, the host of The Daily Show. And we know Jen Psaki, former press secretary for Joe Biden in his first 2 years. And then she was replaced by cringe Jean-Pierre. But then she got her own show on MSNBC. Now, you should hear her take on MSNBC, how she gaslights us right in our face like she used to do behind the podium for the White House and as she does on a daily basis on MSNBC. But the internet isn't having it. Check out what Jen Psaki has to say about MSNBC, her role at MSNBC, and how they are not a mouthpiece for the Democrat Party. Check this out.
You're at MSNBC. Do they come to you every day and go, here's what we think is important to preserve and fight for, whatever?
No, everybody gets a zillion press releases and pitch calls, but no.
No. I'm talking about the head of it.
Oh, no. You determine, we determine, each of us for our shows, here's what I'm going to cover today, and here's what I'm going to talk about, and here's what I think is important, which there's an independence-ish of that. And there also is...
She's full of crap. We know that there's no independence-ish anything at MSNBC. When you literally hear the same exact phrases on every single show on that network, and even when the pundits that are on their show are out speaking on other platforms and they're all using the same exact catchphrase or keywords, that's how you know. That's a mission sent. It's almost like every morning, everybody gets in a manila envelope, opens it up, and it tells them catchphrase of the day. Let her continue.
You're not waiting to be told what to say about anything. You're going to say what you think. So people can trust that, and that is a good thing.
See, I disagree with that. I think it's not that you're able to be independent. It's that you're then a prisoner purely to the minute by minutes. Purely.
You mean in terms of ratings?
The ratings, incentives, and all those other things. If you don't have the ideological component, right, then you don't have a governing authority of editorial authority, right?
And their ratings are in the tank. So obviously that independent-ish thing that they've been doing of letting everybody kind of willy-nilly it isn't working. MSNBC literally right now is on sale for pennies on the dollar. Rachel Maddow, she had her salary cut, and they took her from one night a week to now she has to do 5 days a week during Trump's first 100 days. Joy Reid, the black left-wing super radical activist, she had her salary cut. Several other salaries cut. Other people fired and laid off because the ratings are tanking because of their one-minded, single-focused view of just orange man bad, hate Trump, and they make up some of the worst lies out of all of the media outlets. MSNBC is by far the worst, in my opinion.
The greatest trick Roger Ailes ever played was he delegitimized editorial authority while exercising absolute steel trapdoor editorial authority.
The greatest thing he did because it led them to be an arm piece, a mouthpiece of the right wing.
It led them to be exactly what he wanted it to be, which is an effective expression of his worldview.
And MSNBC, I am unburdened by not having, I can share whatever I think.
Did she just use the Kamala unburdened? But yeah, it's independent-ish, right? She knows she almost broken the unburdened by what it's been.
Obviously, I worked in Democratic politics for 20 years. I don't hide anything about that. It is a progressive-leaning network. But nobody is, to the frustration at times of many elected Democrats, it is not a mouthpiece of the Democratic Party.
And if you're enjoying this video, do me a solid. Hit that like button. I'll never ask for a cash app. I will never ask for a super chat. But you hitting that like button is currency. It helps spread the video around. And if you aren't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. And once you do, hit the notification bell and select all. That way you'll be notified when I upload new videos. She gaslighting us right in our freaking face. It is crazy. Now, on this one, it says, without a hint of irony, blaming misinformation and disinformation for why the Democrats lost after she reposted the Politico article saying Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. Let's check this out.
This was actually one of the things in the weeks after the election where I felt like how it wasn't that I was shocked out of my mind that Trump won. I mean, I've been in politics, I've traveled around the country, but how did this happen and why did this happen and what can be learned from it, which I think is pivotal to understanding in order to figure out how to move forward, which I think is the point, is part of what I'm hearing from what you're saying. And I don't think there's one answer. And I know that there are efforts in different places to explore that question. I think the DNC is doing one. I don't know what will come out of that. I'm keeping my expectations low. But that's sort of, to me, it is a multitude of things. It is how the Democrats are communicating about issues, but it's also, maybe it's a policy question too. And let's not all just call it a messaging issue, because it may not just be a messaging issue. It's misinformation and disinformation. And that's not just, everybody shorthands this as, if Democrats only appeared on Joe Rogan's podcast. I'm like, I'm not sure. I don't know that he's inviting many, maybe he is, but that's not the only answer. I think there's a lot of layers of it. It's also the kind of candidates people run. That's not a hack on Kamala Harris. I mean, in different races as well. And sometimes there have been purity tests in the Democratic Party that aren't particularly constructive. The purity test should be, can you win? And will you be a part of the caucus? Because the majority helps make things happen.
Did you know that when you are becoming like for the DNC, they just had elections for leadership of the Democrat Party, right? And you have to sign an oath. You have to pledge an oath to LGBTQIA activism, to climate change, and you literally have to take an oath that Kamala Harris lost the election because of race and misogyny. That is no joke. If you don't sign off and pledge to that, you're not even going to be considered as a candidate. You have no chance whatsoever. So in order to be a part of the DNC leadership, you have to consent to delusion, and you have to consent to being in victimhood and blame. So Kamala didn't lose because she was incompetent, unable to answer questions, didn't have a plan, wasn't voted for, none of that stuff. She lost because of race and misogyny. Forget the fact that Barack Obama had been elected, and forget the fact that Kamala Harris was a woman of color, VP. We got Supreme Court judges that are women of color. So forget any of that. Kamala Harris lost because of misogyny and race. So it's all about identity politics with these people, and they have not learned. And while screaming and boasting all this DEI stuff and the blackity black, the DNC literally elects David Hogg, a young white guy, and Ken Martin, a white guy from Minnesota. Not the most masculine men you ever want to meet in your life. And then there's another co-chair, a guy named Malcolm Kenyatta, who is married to a male author, a male journalist at Politico. And these are to go after the young male vote. Good luck with that.
I don't have an answer yet, but this is the thing that I want to explore.
Do you think the Democratic Party is principled?
I do think that, and sometimes I don't want to say too principled because that is not a good thing to say, but I think principled, yes. The Democratic Party writ large are defenders of institutions that make the country run, the rule of law. This is part of the problem, right?
You notice what she said. The Democrat Party is loyal to institutions that make the country run. USAID, places like that. You notice she did not say the people. She did not say the people. That's very important.
Right.
They are believers in the separation of government.
Here's where we're getting into it. So I think other people would say that's a veneer. And that what Donald Trump is doing is exposing, he's actually explicitly exposing the dark heart of how the world actually works.
Now, in this clip, Jon Stewart is going to, explain how undemocratic he feels the Democrat Party is. After all of these complaints about Trump and fascism and all of this stuff, the Democrat Party has been rigging their own elections, allegedly, for the last 20 years or so. And they have this in-line thing going on, where it's just like AOC, when she was running to be a committee chair, they chose this older, out-of-touch gentleman because they said he was next. It was his next turn. Forget the fact of who would electrify the party and do the best job. It's all about who was next in line. So Jon Stewart, and I don't know how he shocked anybody that pays attention and that watches Fox News and any other outlets, has known the Democrat Party has been undemocratic almost the entire time, but it's just being exposed on a much higher level right now. But let's check out what Jon Stewart had to say and how Jen Psaki responds to it.
I've been shocked by how undemocratic the Democratic Party can be.
Tell me more, what do you mean by? I don't disagree with you necessarily, but what do you mean by that?
By putting their foot on the scales to get, make sure that Hillary Clinton comes out of the thing, or make sure that that they're listening to that anger about the way that even the ACA, quite frankly, struck me as a very conservative.
You mean because it didn't have a public option in it?
Correct. That it didn't address the very thing that was causing the foundational upset. If I were to break this down narratively, what I think the Democrats have forgotten is government may not be perfect, but it's the only thing large enough to offset multinational corporate exploitation and corruption.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't act like that's urgent and that affects people's lives, then so if the big policies that we make are billions more dollars to insurance companies that we think are fucking people over left and right for their healthcare, so isn't that part of why people lost faith?
Yeah. So yes, I think we're saying, well, I'm trying to say something similar, which is this.
Boom, boom.
Which is Democrats just lost everything. They control nothing. They control, I mean, they don't control the House, they don't control the Senate, they don't control the White House, and they don't control the Supreme Court. So now is the time to break some shit, right? And break some China.
They do control the email lists that continue to ask for money.
Well, that's true.
They still have that.
Jon Stewart is funny with that one. And he's right, because they have been relentless on their donations. And they were even setting up fundraisers, like they were raising money for the California wildfires. People did some deep digging, and it was nothing more than a Democrat fundraising organization, gallivanting as if they were a nonprofit focused on the fires, when the money that you give was going to the Democrat Party campaign war chest, rather than helping that mother, that father, that family out there who need money to help them get their home rebuilt or get back on their feet or just get a bottle of water. So that's what the Democrats do. They still do they get out in there knocking on doors. This 2025, nobody's opening their door just for random people when you got illegal immigrants running around. Meanwhile, Trump is hitting the biggest podcast in the world, being seen by millions, while these folks spending tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars paying for big groups of people to go to neighborhoods, door knocking, skipping over people's houses that got Trump signs and yada, 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 all to get blown out in embarrassing fashion. So in this next clip, we're going to listen to Joe Rogan and I'm sorry, my bad. In this next clip, we're going to listen to Jon Stewart and Jen Psaki talk about the right-wing ecosystem.
And 4 hours of Joe Scarborough shouldn't be allowed in this country. and then like Rachel Maddow, like it's schizophrenic at times. Like, yeah, I do think there should be some semblance of an idea that, look, they're kicking progressive ass right now. And if progressives don't organize their media, their think tanks and all that, it's going to continue to happen. It's chaos.
Well, I will say, broadly speaking, what I'm not going to say Democrats, I'm going to say people on the left do not do that the right does very well, is support within the system each other. I'm serious. Like, and what I mean by this is this, right?
Yeah.
Theo Vaughn appears on Joe Rogan's show, right? He promotes what Joe Rogan's doing, but they all promote all of the things each other are doing and what the elected officials, I guess, are doing too. And the left is a little bit more kind of discombobulated in terms of supporting the different entities on the left. There is not a left ecosystem that matches the right ecosystem.
But Ailes didn't do that either. It was the principle, the ideological principles, not the party. He and Murdoch the same way. They're promoting an ideological worldview, right? That they believe is correct. And Theo Vaughn and Joe Rogan, I think, are different animals than any of this. Like, I wouldn't say I don't think they're part of any machine.
Don't you think they're but they are still in the right wing ecosystem? Wouldn't you agree?
No, I would think they're in. No, I would consider them in a more probably libertarian comedic complex, more along the lines of, and if you watch or listen to their shows, a lot of times it's just pure like goofing off.
Has nothing to do with politics, and oftentimes, but
almost entirely.
But they are supportive of the Trump enterprise, is what I mean. So maybe I'm loosely putting them in that category.
I think they are supportive, but not they are not relentless in the Trump enterprise. Like, they are not Charlie Kirk. They are not Ben Shapiro. Like, they are very different animals. They are not invested in now the shit that you get picked up and like go to the headlines of media. Yeah, but on balance, that's not what their shows are about.
All right, so good deal, John. All right, so I just felt like, maybe that would be a little comedic relief, put out a lot of the political videos about some of the ignorant things the Democrats are doing and the challenges that President Trump and Elon Musk are overcoming. But on this one, I wanted to just share what gaslighting looks like in real time, because we just watched Jen Psaki gaslight us on the Jon Stewart's podcast. And Jon Stewart, he wants to, admit it out loud that he voted for Trump. Him and Stephen A., they might as well just give it up and let it be known. Look, y'all voted for Trump. You just know that your networks will go crazy on you. You got a lot of money tied up into it, but y'all know y'all voted for Trump. Y'all are smart guys. Y'all know. But hey, listen, I appreciate you for watching. And if you haven't liked this video already, hit that like button. If you aren't subscribed, subscribe. Share the video, please. Help other people see it. But other than that, I'm Brian Maxwell saying thank you again. I look forward to seeing you at the top. Over and out. Be safe.